Alain, you have a long experience in adaptation work in Canada. Could you tell us an example of how research-based information has been used in local communities or municipalities in Canada for climate change adaptation?
Yeah, so we've been successful in advancing adaptation with municipality at the Uranus Consortium. First point is because we work in a very specific mode. So we try to be facilitator between researchers in universities and between users on the ground, so municipality engineers, land use planners, etc. So one of the examples is around urban drainage, for example. So if we turn on the screen here, first of all, the theoretical problem with respect to urban drainage, for example, says that because of climate change, historical return period of extreme precipitation event would go from one event every 20 years of 70 or 80 millimeters per 24 hour and become much more frequent because of climate change. So let's say once every 13 years under a changing climate in the 2050s horizon. And then when we contacted different users on the ground in municipalities, they actually told us that they were already going through those type of issues because of climate variability, but also increasingly they had the perception that there was more and more of those events, which were creating all kinds of social impacts, political impacts, economic impacts. So once we had united those researchers and the different type of municipalities that were interested in this, we developed various projects. One of the projects, for example, was to provide with new updated climate products that would allow them to introduce maybe a little bit more easily climate change scenarios into their way to do infrastructure design criteria, for example. So here we can illustrate actually one of those products, which is a product very often used in municipalities in Canada. So it's intensity, duration, frequency, rainfall curves, which basically are illustrated by different lines saying that every 2 hours, every 10 years, let's say, you're going to have a specific amount of maximum rainfall on a 2-hour period, 6-hour period, 12-hour or 24-hour period. And with climate change, this graph is just going to be, you use the same graph, but the numbers are updated to include climate change. So this was actually very efficient in helping some municipalities to review their design criteria. Ironically, what very often happens is that a municipality lives through an extreme event, and then there's a very high political pressure to actually do something about it so that it doesn't happen in the future. And in these circumstances, the interesting point is that some of the municipalities that participated actually directly took the result of the research and had the opportunity, which doesn't happen all of the time, they had the opportunity to introduce those new numbers in design criteria.
Is this method or way of adapting to the changing climate a common practice in Canada?
I guess the issue of adaptation to climate change is just coming on the radar of many organizations. So we are developing this applied research with some of the early adopters or the innovators. So we are working with specific municipalities that have had to deal with problems that are related to climate change. But our hope and what we tend to see happening is that municipalities exchange a lot of information between each other. They present the innovative products and the innovative activities that they do. And very often, some innovators or early adopters will become leaders in this field, and slowly other municipalities actually copy some of the work that are done by innovators, innovative municipalities. So that's the way. But I think at this stage, we're still at the case study, the experimental type of work to get the first success stories around adaptation.
Thanks for this interview, Alain.
My pleasure.